one.
Okay. Okay. So today I'm going to be talking about plant-based eating, and I'm excited about this because I feel like this is a good topic, a good way to eat. And it's one of many, it's not, and this can be pretty broad or general, so we'll get into some of the details of that. So, what plant-based eating is simply eating more volume of your food from plant-based sources. And that idea can be general or specific. So, usually when people think of plant-based eating, they think often of vegetarian diets, potentially vegan diets, but Mediterranean is also a plant-based diet. And so you can be more general and more specific with it. Generally, it's just eating more than 50% of the volume of your food from plants. And that's, you don't have to subscribe to a particular diet to be able to eat a plant-based way, but you can if you want to. So I just, on this little slideshow here, wanted to show some pictures of plant-based foods because I can't tell you, I've heard it too many times in my life that like healthy food can be good. And I want you to look at some of these pictures and look at how delicious those things are. I just found a few pictures on the internet, nothing like really special about these foods necessarily, but they look good and they're all plant-based. So I've got stuffed peppers, some kebabs, salad, a vegetarian fajita, just a variety of fruits and vegetables, another kind of bowl, which are kind of popular right now. So, what are plant-based foods? This is pretty intuitive, I think, for most of us, but I just want to say it out loud anyway. So, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans and legumes, that's like black beans, kidney beans, peas, snap peas, those kinds of things. Nuts and seeds, so almonds, cashews, pistachios, any kind of nut butter like peanut butter or almond butter or cashew butter, seeds like chia seeds and sesame seeds, and then any kind of plant oils. So olive oil, avocado oil, sesame seed oil, all of those are plant foods. Okay, so there are, as I mentioned at the beginning, a few different plant-based diets. Um, so Mediterranean is one of them. I'm not going to talk a lot about that in this slide, in this presentation, because one of the other dietitians is going to be talking about that in hers. We're going to have another live video on that one. But there's also the vegetarian diet, and there are many variations of that one. We're going to talk a little bit about the different variations of the vegetarian diet. And there's also vegan, which is no animal products whatsoever, including some people go more, become really strict with this where they won't eat like honey, which is made from bees. Some people are a little bit more loose with that, where they're just not eating something that comes directly from the animal. Okay, so there are different types of vegetarian diets. There's a semi-vegetarian or flexitarian diet, and that includes when you're eating eggs and dairy, and you're eating meat occasionally and eating some poultry and fish and seafood. There's the pescatarian, where you eat dairy, eggs, and seafood, fish and seafood, but you don't eat any sort of meat or poultry. And then there's vegetarian, which is sometimes called the lacto-ovo vegetarian, where you are eating eggs and dairy, but you're not eating fish or seafood or poultry or meat. So those are just some different kinds, and I'm not going to at any point in this presentation say like this is the better way to eat. Like different people have different reasons for choosing different plant-based ways of eating if they choose to eat plant-based. Um, and and so I'm not going to say like one is better than the other. So some benefits of plant-based eating, there are actually a lot. So eating less meat. So if your diet was more plant-based and like, if you had any meat in it at all, like if it was less of that, eating less meat helps reduce the risk for a lot of things that we deal with in the United States and worldwide, but especially in the United States, including heart disease, stroke, obesity, having high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and even many cancers. And there are also a lot of like pros. So not just, the side of like not eating meat, makes for a better trajectory, but like a lot of pros for eating a more plant-based foods. So it's really good for the gut health. Having a more diverse microbiome is associated with people that have lived longer and have had less chronic disease. Um, Having more vegetable fiber is associated with more diversity in your gut. And it also has some association, a more balanced gut has less association with things like inflammation and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. There are some benefits just with fiber. So eating more plant-based helps you get more fiber into what you're eating through the whole grains, through the vegetables, through the whole fruits. And there are a lot of benefits with getting more fiber in your diet. And in fact, the American Diabetes Association recommends that women get about 25 grams of fiber per day, men get about 38 grams of fiber per day. The American Heart Association has a little bit, doesn't break it down into men and women, but they recommend 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. And what's typical for people in the United States is to get about 15 grams of fiber per day. So a lot less than the recommendation. And we kind of hear like fiber is important, and we kind of think, okay, yeah, great, fiber is important. It helps me go more regularly, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Fiber actually helps in a lot of different ways. So it does help normalize bowel movements, but it also helps maintain just bowel health generally. It may help reduce the risk of hemorrhoids and diverticuli. It also helps lower cholesterol. So you might have seen on like Quaker Oats, they have a little like heart on them, or even Cheerios that say may help reduce the risk of heart disease. And that's because of the cholesterol lowering impact of getting that kind of fiber that's in the oats and the Cheerios. Not that that's the only place you get that kind of fiber, but that's just an example. It also helps control blood sugar. So for individuals, especially for individuals that are trying to control their blood sugar, getting more fiber in what you're eating helps your blood sugar to not spike as much. It makes it climb up more slowly. And it's also more filling. So for anyone who's trying to achieve a healthy weight or be at a healthy weight, getting more fiber in your system really helps to just like bulk up what you're eating. In fact, people that eat more plant-based eat or can eat a lot more food, and it's still like lower calorie. I mean, depending on what you add to it, but like it can be much lower calories, much more nutrient density, but you're eating a lot more, so you feel full, so you're not overeating and getting a lot of calories, but you're getting a lot of nutrition. Also, eating more plant-based puts less stress on the environment. And I'm not going to go a whole lot into that because that can be kind of a political topic, but for environmentalists, people that care about that, it does put less stress on the environment. Okay, so some things to be mindful of. So sometimes people will decide to be a vegetarian. I'm just going to use this as an example. Some people will decide to be a vegetarian and go into it a little bit blindly. There are some things to be mindful of if you choose to eat more plant-based. Some nutrients that you just have to make sure that you include. Especially this, and some of these nutrients are especially relevant for people that choose to be vegan. They have to be particularly conscientious about making sure that they include these in their diet. So just FYI to be aware of, you want to make sure that you're getting enough iron, enough B12, enough B6, protein, calcium, and vitamin D. These are just ones that like people that eat more plant-based or might, maybe particularly like those that are vegetarian or vegan might struggle a little bit to get enough of these if they're not making a conscious decision to include these. So here are just a few ideas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's just kind of like a list, and really you can get this online. You can look this up all over the place, but just some plant-based ideas to get some of these nutrients. So you can get iron in lentils and kale and cashews and chia seeds and fortified breakfast cereals. B12 is not produced by plants, so like if you're eating plant-based, especially vegetarian or vegan, where you're just not including any kind of animal products whatsoever, you can't get B12 from just plant-based foods. So you need to supplement. You can also use nutritional yeast or breakfast cereals, like getting some kind of vitamin mineral. Vitamin B6 you can get in avocados, pistachios, Brussels sprouts, acorn squash, sunflower seeds, nutritional yeast, fortified breakfast cereals. Calcium you can get in broccoli, okra, cabbage. Um, non-dairy milks, like people are aware that when people are not drinking cow's milk, that's a substitute. So if you're drinking soy milk, that's, sometimes you're not drinking cow's milk. So manufacturers are aware of that. And so like almond milk, soy milk, cashew milk, you're usually putting, if the plant food doesn't naturally have the calcium in it, they're usually putting it in there because they know people use that as a cow's milk replacement. Vitamin D. People in the United States generally don't get enough vitamin D, so this is not just for people that are eating more plant-based, but fortified non-dairy milks like soy and almond and oat milk usually or can have vitamin D in them if they're fortified. Fortified orange juice has vitamin D, portobello mushrooms. These are just a few ideas. Okay, so plant proteins. I want to put a little bit of focus on this because this is something that is important for people that are choosing more plant-based eating to make sure you get enough protein in what you're eating. So I want to go through in a little bit more detail some different options for making sure that you get enough protein in what you're eating. So beans like black or kidney or pinto beans are a great source of protein. You get 6 to 9 grams of protein in half a cup of those. Lentils are also a great source of protein. You get 12 grams in half a cup of cooked lentils. Sunflower seeds are a good source of protein. Well, seeds generally. So sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds. In sunflower seeds, you get 8 grams per ounce. Pumpkin seeds, you get 7 grams per ounce. Nuts are also a good source of protein and also healthy fat. Peanuts are actually, even though they're not technically a nut, but they have the most protein of the nuts. They have 9 grams per quarter cup. Almonds and pistachios are also up there with the amount of protein that they have in them. 7 grams in the almonds and 6 grams in the pistachios. A few other plant protein options: tempeh, tofu, edamame, grains. The tempeh, you can get 13 to 16 grams of protein in 3.5 ounces. And I know those are kind of just like numbers, and sometimes we say numbers and it's just kind of like blah, blah, blah. But anyway, there you have it. 13 to 16 grams in 3.5 ounces of tempeh. Tofu, 8 grams of protein in 3.5 ounces. Edamame, which is also like soybeans. They look kind of like pea pods. 18 grams in protein in a cup of cooked edamame. And grains, people don't often think of grains as having protein in them, and I wouldn't call them a high protein food, or at least not in most cases. Like quinoa would be an exception, but grains do have some protein, and quinoa is kind of an exception as far as like it's got a little more protein than some others. A fourth a cup of uncooked barley or quinoa has 5 to 6 grams of protein. Faux meat products, those can also provide protein, and I want to put a little bit of caution tape around like this idea here, because sometimes when people are trying to eat more plant-based foods, they might go for like the veggie burger or like other like faux meats, and nothing wrong with that, but not all of them are healthy. Sometimes they can actually have quite a bit of like saturated fat in them. Sometimes they have a lot of sodium in them. Sometimes they're pretty high in carbohydrate and don't have a ton of protein in them. So just be aware when you're getting some kind of product to look at the ingredient list. Plant-based beverages, soy milk has 8 grams of protein in it. Vegetables are another source of protein that we don't usually think of, and they don't have tons in them as far as like volume. So you're eating a cup of broccoli, there's not like a ton of protein in 1 cup of broccoli, but vegetables actually have a pretty high amount of protein per calorie. So they give you some protein. Nutritional yeast is a source of protein that especially vegans will use in like cheesy sauces and stuff. Green peas also have some protein in them. 8 grams of protein in a cup of cooked peas. Okay, so protein, we've talked about some protein sources. So this is another like caution tape around the idea of eating more plant-based. Um, I'm a fan of eating plant-based, but like just there are some things to be aware of. So just because it's plant-based doesn't mean that it's healthy. I've got some ideas, a list of things on this page here that kind of show that. So potato chips, Costco muffins, fruit snacks, power bars, lemonade, granola bars, Velveeta biscuits. Um, so these are all plant-based foods. And I've heard more than once someone told me about, they're very proud of their decision, like what they're eating, like how healthy they're eating, and maybe they tell me they're eating a muffin. Well, just to be aware, like Costco muffins, and this isn't new news or anything, so I'm not saying like, people don't know this, but like muffins have a lot of added sugar and added fat in them. Potato chips, I don't think I really need to say that one, but they're high in fat, empty calories. Fruit snacks, they may have some fruit in them, but those usually have a lot of added sugar in them as well. Even things like power bars, Velveeta biscuits, like breakfast bars, like those are kind of marketed to be very healthy. Marketing can be really tricky sometimes, but a lot of times those have a lot of added sugar. So just look at the ingredient list, see what it's got in there. Okay, and that's not to say, so I'm also not a fan of telling people like you can't ever eat this. So that's not my style. I don't do that typically with people unless they just really can't control themselves, and I let them make that decision. But all of these things, I just want to qualify and say that all of the foods that I mentioned here, and like ones that I haven't mentioned too, but all of those foods can be included as part of a nutritious diet. Just be aware of what they are adding, and kind of, make some decisions about how much, how often. Okay, so I wanted to show some other pictures, just some other, these are just different food ideas for plant-based foods. I just wanted to show a few more pictures because, like I said, I've heard it said a few too many times that healthy eating can't be tasty, but look at this. So these are just some ideas here. Stuffed squash, chickpea and potato stuffed poblano peppers, a cashew milkshake, Mediterranean style pita pizzas, arugula lentil salad, some baked sweet potatoes stuffed with chickpea chili, some smoked tofu breakfast muffins, some green bean casserole, whipped cottage cheese with almond butter and banana, some bok choy and a ginger and garlic sauce. And here are a few more here. Some low carb zucchini egg noodles, blueberry banana protein smoothie, a melted feta veggie bake, and some spinach feta pancakes. And these, I'm aware that these are, not everyone has time to make elaborate meals. So I want to share a couple things that I like to do that are more plant-based. Simple. So an oat and peanut butter mash. This one is I know some people think this is a little bit weird, but I enjoy it. So I take uncooked oats, peanut butter, and I use the no sugar peanut butter, half a banana, and sunflower seeds, and just kind of like mash it all together. This actually was not originally my idea. I found it in a cookbook where they made kind of granola bars out of like oats, peanuts, and jelly. So anyway, my idea was kind of a spin-off of one that I found in a cookbook one time. Another thing that I like to do, and this I know I'm a little weird and I'm not going to deny that. I eat weird things, and anyway, but spaghetti sauce over some kind of cooked vegetable or raw. I mean, sometimes I'll put spaghetti sauce or some kind of pasta sauce over just some baby spinach. Sometimes I'll put it over broccoli. Sometimes I'll put it over cooked cauliflower. You can do green beans, zoodles, even putting it over beans like chickpeas or chickpeas or brown beans or kidney beans. I'll put some kind of pasta sauce over there. I personally really enjoy sauces, so I like spaghetti sauce. I like Alfredo sauce. I like sauces. I just like things with a lot of flavor, so I often will put those over vegetables. Um, Tofu and roasted vegetables, that's another one that I enjoy. Um, I will sometimes make a little protein shake, and I'm not telling anyone to eat any of these things. I'm not even necessarily recommending them. I'm just saying these are some of the ones that I enjoy, just to provide some examples. Ordained protein powder, which is a plant-based protein powder. Some peanut butter, ice and water, put it in the blender, tastes great. And I kind of already mentioned any kind of sauce over veggies. So my own mantra, and I can't, no meal is complete without something green. And green starbursts don't count. Okay, so here are some tips. I just want to talk about some ways, for people that are maybe a little interested in getting started with eating more plant-based things, whether you're trying to subscribe to a certain diet or not. I don't subscribe to any particular diet, just FYI, but I do try to eat more plant-based. So here are some tips. Eating a lot of vegetables. This is and sometimes I'll explain this as a little bit of a shift in mentality when you're trying to eat more plant-based foods. Like, one thing that you can kind of shift in your mind, in the United States, we usually think of our entree or our meat as like the star of the show. So we'll think of, okay, what am I having for dinner? And the first question is, okay, what meat am I having? Or what, am I having lasagna? Or, I'm drawing a blank now, but lasagna or meatloaf, or what's the star of the show? And it's not usually a plant-based thing. Usually it's got some like meat or dairy product in it. But if you shift your mentality a little bit to thinking, okay, so the vegetables are going to be the bulk of my meal. The vegetables are the bulk of the meal, and think of the protein. You want to make sure you get enough protein, I want to say that, but think of the protein and like whatever else you're having as kind of the garnish, more of the garnish for your food. That's one way to get started. Cooking a vegetarian meal at least once a week. That's another way to kind of start thinking about and exploring, trying some ideas, trying to find some dishes or like ways of eating that you enjoy that are more plant-based and include more like whole grains, vegetables, fruits. Choosing healthy fats, plant-based fats, instead of the butter or the bacon grease. So maybe going for more of the olive oil or avocado oil, or using nuts or seeds or nut butters in what you're making. Including whole grains for breakfast. So I feel like this may have started before Michelle Obama, but I remember, when they kind of switched over to the plate concept rather than the pyramid, hearing a lot, like, get at least half of your grains as whole grains. So that concept kind of still applies. It definitely still applies. But trying to eat some whole grains for breakfast, getting some whole grains with breakfast, and maybe whole grains for lunch and dinner are great as well. Eating fruit for dessert. That one's a weird one for some of us, maybe not for all of us, but like trying to eat fruit for dessert, making that your sweet. And going for greens, making sure to include a lot of green things in what you're eating, whether, those are salad greens, maybe they're cooked like collard greens, maybe it's broccoli, maybe it's asparagus, maybe it's Brussels sprouts, just including some green things in what you're eating. Okay, that is kind of a rundown on eating plant-based foods, and I hope that if you weren't interested in eating plant-based foods before, you probably didn't watch this video, but if you were a tiny bit interested, maybe you're a little bit more interested now, think about some of the benefits of plant-based eating. And we sometimes get stuck in a mentality of like all or nothing, but if you're interested in eating more plant-based foods, there's absolutely it's perfect to start with like one little thing that you can do. So if something sparked in your mind that you want to try, like try that one little thing. Um, that is all I have, and thanks for watching.